Pacific Ocean. Depth, 13,000 feet. Time, 0317 ship time. Above the crushing abyssal plain glides a colossal machine, 9,200 tons of high-tech steel and geopolitical projection. The USS Mahan, DDG-72, an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer. On the bridge, the rhythm of routine night patrol is a steady, familiar drone. But deep within this floating city, in the vital, chilled compartment known as the sonar dome, reality suddenly compresses to a single, terrifying point. Senior Chief Sonar Technician Davis is glued to the spectral display of the /SQQ 89 system. For the last 6 hours, his world has been the internal noise of his own ship. The rhythmic groan of hydraulics, the low-frequency hum of pumps, the distant, muffled slap of waves against the hull. It is a grueling, mental meditation in noise, requiring perfect hearing and perfect exhaustion to distinguish nothing from something. And then this something manifested. Not loud, not abrupt. It simply was. It wasn't a random cetacean, not seismic noise, nor a return echo from a known obstacle. It was an acoustic signature, infinitesimally weak, lying on the absolute lower limit of spectral sensitivity, yet chillingly pure. A sharp, rhythmic clicking, characteristic of a 7-bladed propeller working on ultra-low RPMs, a mode known internally as a ghost transit. Davis, his body trained by decades of protocol, instantly engaged the intercom. His voice was flat, dry, devoid of the surge of adrenaline that simultaneously burned away hours of fatigue. Sonar, CIC. Unidentified contact. Bearing 190. Depth undetermined. Range estimated 15 to 20 nautical miles. Confirming acoustic signature. Probable SSN/SSBN class. Speed 3 knots. Contact is silent. In that precise second, the survival window snapped shut. The USS Mahan had just slammed into the brutal kinetic reality of modern naval confrontation, where 9,200 tons of steel must instantly transform from a passive patrol vessel into a perfect, silent machine, or risk a fate that could tilt the balance of an undeclared war. The stakes are not merely the loss of a ship. The stakes are the delicate geopolitical equilibrium held together by fragile, oceanic invisibility. A confrontation with an enemy submarine is not merely a threat. It is an existential crisis for a surface combatant. The submarine is the perfect primary assassin. If you hear it, it likely hears you. If you don't hear it, it may already have you in its sights. The reaction aboard the USS Mahan was the embodiment of decades of rigorous, rehearsed protocol, an instantaneous transition from passive existence to complete anti-submarine warfare, ASW, lockdown. 1. The Combat Information Center, CIC, the machine's brain. Within 45 seconds of Davis's initial contact report, the Combat Information Center, CIC, on the Mahan exploded with controlled, focused energy. Overhead lighting extinguished, replaced by the faint red glow of emergency bulbs to protect night vision. The ambient hum of cooling fans and ventilation, normally background noise, suddenly seemed deafeningly loud. The Tactical Action Officer, TAO, Lieutenant Commander Hayden, seized command. His first command was not about speed or course correction. It was about silence. Protocol, quiet ship, ASW Readiness Alpha. Engineering shutdowns. All non-critical systems, secondary pumps, garbage compactors, unnecessary ventilation, were immediately powered down. Objective: reduce the destroyer's acoustic signature to the level of ambient sea noise, masking its identity. Speed reduction. Mahan speed plummeted from 15 knots to 5 knots. The slower the ship moves, the less cavitation noise is generated by the propellers, the single greatest source of self-noise for a surface ship. Every additional knot risked alerting the enemy. Acoustic systems deployment. Key sensing apparatuses were brought fully online. OSQS, 53C hull-mounted sonar. This powerful system, capable of active pinging, remains strictly passive. An active ping is a declaration of presence, a tactical suicide that instantly reveals location. OSQR, 19-towed array sonar, TAS, the most crucial asset. A streamer of hydrophones, hundreds of meters long, was paid out far astern. The TAS pulls the listening array outside the ship's own noise field, allowing Mahan to hear fainter, lower-frequency sounds than any hull-mounted system, crucial for identifying a quiet SSBN signature. 2. The mathematics of stealth, acoustic domination. In aerial warfare, speed matters. In underwater warfare, acoustic domination is absolute. The U.S. Navy spends billions making its ships quieter, operating under the grim understanding that in a duel against a modern nuclear attack submarine, like a Russian Yazan or a Chinese Type 093, first detection almost always translates to terminal outcome. The N/SQQ 89 integrated ASW suite is the collective mind forged from steel, designed to overcome the physiology of betrayal, acoustic errors. It rapidly analyzes the data flowing in from the TAS. 1. LOFR/DFAR analysis. Low-frequency analysis and directional analysis. Spectral analysis breaks the sound down into specific frequency lines. Every submarine is unique. The noise from its turbines, reduction gears, and pump jets constitutes an acoustic fingerprint. Mahan is now hunting for a match against its library of known threats. 2. Acoustic anomaly detection. AD searches for any subtle shift in background noise that is not naturally occurring. This AD software is what likely first flagged the ghost transit. Technical contrast. Mahan is an immense, inherently noisy object. The submarine, despite its 10,000 tons, is engineered as a perfect acoustic vacuum. In this struggle of machine versus chaos, Mahan battles the very physics of ocean acoustics, which is designed to conceal, not reveal. Result of Act 1. In under 3 minutes, Mahan has throttled down, deployed the TS, and entered a state of absolute listening. The destroyer has successfully transformed into a giant, disciplined ear. Now, it strains to hear the sound of a submarine, potentially carrying nuclear-tipped ordnance, slowly approaching from the invisible darkness. In submarine warfare, the factor of time is measured not in minutes, but in hesitation. Every moment of hesitation grants the hostile submarine a chance for an evasive maneuver or, far worse, a firing solution. The psychic pressure in the sonar dome is reaching its maximum sustainable limit. 1. The chaos of the ocean as primary killer. Hydroacoustics does not operate in a vacuum. The ocean is not just water. It is a three-dimensional, dynamic environment that constantly distorts and absorbs sound. This is the brutal reality. The thermocline. This is the boundary layer where water temperature, and therefore density, changes abruptly. Sound waves refract sharply at this boundary, creating an acoustic curtain. Submarines frequently use this layer as an invisible blanket to hide from surface ship sonar. If the hostile SSN is below the thermocline, it is functionally invisible to Mahan's hull-mounted systems. Ambient noise, ship traffic, distant storms, and biological noise, shrimp, whales, contribute to a cacophony of natural sound. If the submarine is quiet enough, it can effectively hide within this natural acoustic chaos and randomness. The fundamental task for Davis and his team is to sieve through this unpredictable environmental noise to isolate a tiny, artificial, mechanical noise signature. 2. The physiology of duty, the cost of listening. While technology, the SQQ 89, provides the raw data, the interpretation of that data is the function of the human mind. The sonar operator is the vulnerable unit, operating at the absolute limit of human capability. Fatigue and hallucinations, sustained, intense listening in a low-frequency, monotonous environment leads to acoustic hallucinations. The brain begins to fill in the blanks, generating phantom contacts. Davis must not only listen for the enemy, but constantly fight his own brain, which is desperately searching for patterns where none exist. Distance and credibility. Every 15 minutes, Davis reports new tracking data, bearing, speed, and depth if possible. Every update is a tactical gain or loss. After half an hour of intense, agonizing silence, Davis confirms the contact is not leaving. It is moving slowly, and based on the loafer analysis, the signature is heavy. CIC verdict. The signature correlates with a heavy, multi-purpose nuclear attack submarine, likely a Russian Yazan, SSN, or equivalent heavy platform. This is not merely a reconnaissance vessel. It is a platform designed for the rapid delivery of lethal payload, including cruise missiles and heavy torpedoes. This is not merely an incident. This is a direct tactical standoff. TEO Hayden realizes they have entered the torpedo engagement zone, TEZ. They're close enough to be targeted. If the submarine chooses to act, Mahan's reaction time will be measured in mere seconds. Contrast of Act 2. The quieter the destroyer becomes, the louder the psychological stress mounts. The machine achieves acoustic perfection, but the human element, Davis, remains the only filter standing between it and catastrophe. The current rigorous ASW protocol and the Navy's technological obsession with stealth were not born in a vacuum. They are the direct, unblinking result of historical disasters and strategic betrayals. 1. Cold War lessons. The price of trust. The U.S. Navy once operated with an assumed acoustic superiority. That confidence was brutally shattered in the late 1970s and early 1980s. The Walker spy ring. The espionage committed by John Walker provided the Soviet Union with access to critical naval codes and, more importantly, detailed intelligence on how the U.S. tracked Soviet submarines. This intelligence allowed Soviet engineers, particularly at the Severodvinsk yards, to design fundamentally new, radically quiet submarines capable of operating in modes previously unavailable to them. The parameters shift, where American SSNs could once trail Soviet boomers from a safe, comfortable distance. The distance of reliable detection drastically shrank after the 1980s. ASW engagements evolved into close-quarters, knife-fight duels, demanding absolute silence and exceptional mastery. This historical precedent forged the modern naval philosophy: trust the machine implicitly, but never underestimate the enemy. 2. The evolution of the unrelenting rescue machine. Since those dark lessons, the Navy has invested colossal resources into systems designed specifically to counter the silent hunter. Towed array sonars, TAS. If the hull-mounted sonar is a loud shout, the TAS is a whisper. It is critically important because it allows Mahan to listen in an area far removed from its own inevitable mechanical noise. The TAS is a living testament to the past, an admission that the ship itself is the greatest enemy of its own stealth. Layered interoperability and echeloning. ASW is never conducted by a single vessel alone. The Navy uses a multi-layered, integrated approach. OP-8 Poseidon, maritime patrol aircraft capable of deploying vast fields of sonobuoys, creating a broad acoustic net. OMH-60 are Seahawk helicopters, equipped with dipping sonar, which can rapidly penetrate the water column, specifically targeting the thermocline to gain accurate depth data. Aboard Mahan, the helicopter launch protocol is immediately initiated. The preparation and launch of the Seahawk is an explosion of noise that temporarily compromises the destroyer's acoustic edge. This is a calculated and critical compromise, a gamble that the rapid deployment of the dipping sonar will yield precise depth and course information on the adversary before the silent hunter can use Mahan's temporary acoustic blinding to maneuver for an attack. In this moment, Mahan is not merely a destroyer. It is a node in a multi-platform, collective intelligence where every component, human, aircraft, helicopter, executes its sharpened procedure, operating on instinct born from historical necessity. The stakes are raised. The helicopter is airborne. The eye of the hunter is now plunging into the abyss. The MH-60 are Seahawk, hovering high above the dark churn of the ocean, plunges its specialized dipping sonar into the water. The acoustic pulse penetrates the thermal barrier. The tension in the CIC is now unbearable, manifesting as a physical weight. 90 seconds later, the data streams back from the helicopter to the Mayhan. Contact confirmed. Depth 500 feet, 150 meters. Course 020. Speed 4 knots. Range 8 nautical miles. Entering the direct engagement zone. 8 miles is the critical distance. The hostile submarine can now launch a lethal torpedo strike with high probability of success. Mayhan is now in a position where operational protocol demands decisive action, but geopolitical reality mandates absolute restraint. T.O. Hayden, staring at the tactical display where two icons, friendly and enemy, slowly converge, must make a split-second decision that could trigger the first kinetic exchange of a burgeoning conflict. The TEO's choices. 1. Active ping. Aggression/deterrence. Use the SQS-53C active sonar. This is a loud, aggressive shriek that tells the submarine, "We know exactly where you are, and we are prepared." This carries the high risk of provoking a preemptive attack, but may force the opponent to break contact. 2. Aggressive maneuver. Evasion. Drastically increase speed and change course. Risk. The ensuing noise from the hull and propellers could permanently drown out all acoustic data, causing Mayhan to lose the critical track. 3. Passive tracking. Containment/waiting. Maintain the slow, silent pursuit, demonstrating persistent contact and readiness, while awaiting political or higher military authorization. Hayden chooses passive tracking. Maintain present course. No active emissions. Preserve absolute acoustic silence. Adjust TAS depth every 30 seconds by 5 meters. Constantly remind yourselves, the objective is not to destroy. The objective is to maintain contact and demonstrate unwavering capability. In this most critical of moments, with weapons hot and torpedo tubes ready, the limit of man and machine capability is not speed or firepower. It is the capacity for restraint. They proceed on parallel courses, two unseen predators separated by 8 miles of cold water. Mayhan knows where the enemy is, but the enemy, due to its superb quietness, also knows that it is being tracked. For 2 agonizing hours, the destroyer and the submarine maintain this deadly, high-tension ballet. It is a contest of cognitive dominance. Finally, the hostile assassin, realizing its stealth has been comprehensively breached and unwilling to risk escalation, abruptly changes course and accelerates away, utilizing deep currents and depth to escape the acoustic net. The final verdict, the price of duty. The contact is lost, but the mission is accomplished. The crisis was resolved not by ordnance, but by protocol. An ASW duel, in absolute silence, is the purest form of naval warfare. It is not about explosions or heroics under fire. It is about the price of duty, the hours spent by sonar technicians in darkness, listening to dead noise for the slightest flicker of life, and the discipline of commanders who understand that the most powerful weapon is not a launched missile, but the perfection of self-control. Technology, the SQQ-89, the SQS-53, can expand the survival window, granting us the capability to hear fractionally further than we could yesterday. But the fundamental law of the ocean remains immutable. Chaos awaits. And our readiness to confront that chaos, transforming 9,200 tons of steel into a perfectly silent, honed instrument of deterrence, is the true price of duty. The U.S. Navy cannot afford to lose a single unit, because every unit is a political commitment and a technological masterpiece. But at the end of this encounter, as the Mayhan slowly resumes speed, the core truth remains. To survive in the ocean, you must be silent. And to be silent, you must be relentless. As the USS Mayhan slowly returned to patrol speed, the immediate crisis dissolved, replaced by the crushing exhaustion of a 3-hour close-quarters engagement. The adrenaline faded, leaving behind the chilling clarity of what had almost occurred. This is the reality of modern ASW, not a grand naval battle, but a perfect, prolonged state of near miss. It is a testament to the fact that in the face of the deep ocean, the ultimate, vast theater of statistical cruelty, human discipline remains the decisive factor. The indelible cost, the vulnerable unit. For the analysts like Senior Chief Davis, the all-clear signal is merely a temporary reprieve. The price paid is the perpetual stress of listening. The human ear, capable of discerning microscopic shifts in acoustic pressure, is simultaneously the most powerful and most fragile sensor aboard the ship. Every successful evasion, every successful track in the face of overwhelming chaos, cements the psychological debt owed to the man in the dark room. The Navy's protocols, the kneading machine of rescue, are engineered to maximize survival time. But those protocols rely entirely on the vulnerable unit maintaining flawless concentration during critical time. This is why the doctrine of no one left behind extends beyond physical rescue. It includes the unwavering belief in the training and focus of every sailor on that line, especially those forced to stare into the abyss of absolute silence. The weapon of restraint. The true strategic victory for the Mayhan was not the detection. It was the restraint. The ability to maintain contact without provoking a kinetic response, relying solely on the power of knowledge, demonstrates the advanced stage of modern deterrence. The presence of the towed array sonar, the activation of the Seahawk, the sudden reduction of 9,200 tons of displacement into a nearly silent ghost. These were all signals. Signals more potent than any missile launch. Mayhan told the silent hunter, without a single active ping, that its invisibility had been penetrated. This encounter reinforces the core thesis of naval power. We build colossal power. Nuclear reactors, massive hull structures, sophisticated fire control systems, only to spend decades trying to hide it. We craft the unrelenting machine capable of planetary destruction, only to use it primarily for passive deterrence. The silent pursuit endured by Mayhan was not about finding the enemy to destroy them. It was about finding the enemy to prove that the machine and protocol always function, that the system is ready, and that the price of duty will always be paid, not with blood, but with the cold, hard currency of absolute alertness and perfect, calculated silence. The silent war continues, and in the black depths, the ultimate edge belongs to those who are trained to listen to the dead.